NetSuite has its own powerful inbuilt marketing capabilities. These powerful marketing tools are available right out the box, and they allow you to store and track marketing data in real time in one place from one data source. This gives the user of NetSuite and managers an enriched 360-degree overview of the customer, enabling you to build up your big data on the customer and develop code halos around your contacts and customers. So you can effectively pull the data in and analyze it to how you want to. So you can figure out what the customer's preferences are and how to sell to them more effectively. So today I'll be running you through a few tools and functions that will allow you to take advantage of some of NetSuite's inbuilt CRM and marketing capabilities. So 5 core things I'm actually going to be running through today are online customer forms, static and dynamic groups, NetSuite marketing campaigns, marketing reporting, and the SMTP server settings inside NetSuite itself. And sort of the way we're actually going to be enabling you to use these and demonstrating these is by going along the classic sort of marketing process. So as we can see that here, we're going to go through the 4-step process of gathering contacts using online forms, segmenting your audience just like you would in sort of the Mailchimp or Salesforce applications, using dynamic and static groups. We'll be sending a Mailshot using a marketing campaign, and we'll be reporting on key metrics provided by that. So we'll be reporting on things like ROI, which is bigger picture in terms of sales, how much money you actually get back from your investment, and then your key marketing metrics such as click rate and open rate. So let's move on. So the first part of the story and the first thing to consider is the online customer forms. So there are a couple of avenues that anyone can take to get customers into their databases. So things like Mailchimp and Salesforce, traditionally you'd upload using a sheet, or you'd have an online form on a website that says subscribe to our mailing list, something like that. I'm sure you've probably seen it on other websites. NetSuite allows similar functionality, but it expands on it a lot more. So instead of just having one email drop-in, you can actually design bespoke online customer forms that allow you to data capture your customer's information anywhere and have it imported straight into NetSuite. So this is good for a couple of things. So obviously it's easy and efficient to use, and it cuts down on processing time for your actual employees, so they won't have to do any of the data entry, leaving them time to do other things. And it cuts down on human error and things like that. Obviously, traditional ways of actually gathering information on customers is to have them fill out a paper form, or say they provided their form on an Excel spreadsheet. There would always be some element of human error, even if it was minuscule, in uploading that data to your database. This completely removes that because it's an automatic transfer. Okay, so these online customer forms are useful because they allow you to create and update leads, prospects and customers directly into your NetSuite CRM using an online form. Forms can be generated in 2 ways. You can have your default and basic NetSuite form, and you can have fully customized HTML templates, and we'll go into that a little bit later. And these forms, the way they're produced actually, they're hosted in NetSuite, and they are just they're just exported as an external URL, so you're really flexible with them. You can either point your customer at the URL, or you can say host it in an iframe and host it on your website. So it really integrates well with the rest of your sort of online presence. Okay, so let's hop out of here now, and we'll hop into the demonstration, and we're going to show you a couple of things. We're actually going to show you the online forms in practice, and then we're going to show you how to set up one of the basic forms really quickly. Okay, so just like I said, this may look a bit confusing, but don't be too scared. This is just how we're hosting the forms. So the forms can be hosted in an iframe, which is probably how you'd look to use it. So say if you had a website, you'd want to store the form, the contact page of your website possibly. So let's go ahead and have a look in here. So if we take this HTML code, which is basically just an iframe hosting the actual form, we can see that when we actually view it, it'll come up in a nice little layout. So if we just wait for it to load a second, we can see right at the top in this container here, we have the basic customer form. And pretty much all it is, if you ignore all the HTML nonsense, is this key piece of information here. so the external URL that's produced by NetSuite. And as you can see, this has all the standard fields that we've nominated in the actual backend. So you've got first name, last name, email, company size, and all that information. And these are fully customizable in actually in the NetSuite user interface. So you can go ahead as a simple user, not using HTML or anything, and you can add new fields pulled directly from the customer records to add to this online form. As I said, that's a basic form. What we can actually do is we can stylize these forms to match in with the rest of your branding. So as you can see down here, we've got one that matches the Nolan branding, so it's got a nice orange button, and obviously when you hover over it, it's just a little bit more appealing. Scrolling further down, again, another example. So using a little bit more knowledge and using HTML and clever bits like that, you can actually customize these to fit in as much as you like. So let's actually see an example of this. So if we navigate into our NetSuite CRM profile, here we have it, and we can see a whole host of metrics here. If we search for, say, Michael Rounds, you'll see that a customer has popped up. Now, if we have a look at this customer, you can actually see a host of information on him, and you can see all the details around them. And this is basically the basis for the form entry. You can track exactly where it's come from as well, so you can see exactly how it was set. So it was set via the web store. So let's go ahead and make an example of this. So if we come onto the online form, you can quite simply fill in the data. So again, if we do John Smith, and just fill in some crucial information. Notice here that we've got asterisks is next to mandatory fields. As I say, this is pretty much universal language to anything that has to be mandatory. So if we just go ahead and fill this out quickly. And one thing you'll notice here is that these drop-down boxes are presented. Now the clever thing, because the actual form's generated out of NetSuite and displayed as an external URL, this will actually source all your drop-downs from directly within NetSuite. So no matter what changes you make in NetSuite, they'll always be updated and replicated on any online forms that you push out, which is a good thing. So you can see here that this is pulled in directly from NetSuite. So if we just put in 1 to 99 employees, so we get Egham, we pop in a postcode, and then nominate the country again from a drop-down list. And then this is a section to add the comments. So as I said, all this information is going direct to the customer profile, and this is mapping to the comments field. Maybe it's a message as to why the customer decided to put themselves into the lead form. So I'm interested in your services. Ooh. Perfect. Now it's as simple as the user just pressing submit, and what you'll notice is once that's actually loaded through, the form will redirect. And this is quite cool because you can actually set it up to redirect anywhere. So one thing our customers like to do is if you actually use an online form, it's possibly a good idea to have it redirect to, say, a part of your web store where you can push them on to more sales. So you're done with this, now you can have a look at our products. And instantaneously, what you'll actually notice is that John Smith, if you search him up here, will appear in the database. So you've got two things here. You've got a contact John Smith and you've got the lead. So what it's actually done is it's created two separate things because we've put in the company as well as a contact. So we said we're creating John Smith and he works at Smith & Co. So if we just load these up, you can see in the system information that these are being created in real time. So this has just been created at 9 minutes past 3. It's been created by the web store, and it's brought across all of the information. So it's told us his first and last name, told us his email, and his company, which is good. It's also brought across those comment fields and populated his address. So that's good. So that's the first step of the story. You can populate or you can gather information on your customers to add to your database. And as I said, this can be done using not only the simple form, but the more stylized forms as well. So perhaps Mike Smith, again. and the drop-down list working exactly the same way. And you can just submit that again. And as I said, it will only require the fields that are mandatory, and we'll show you how to generate that in a moment. So again, if we just have a look up here and we search Mike Smith, you'll see that that's come in just the same. So using either form, you can sort of really get what you want out of it. So perfect. So we're going to go on, how do we make these forms ourselves? So it's relatively easy. As I said, you can do the basic ones with very little knowledge at all. All you have to do is navigate to the online customer forms section in NetSuite, and you can actually see all the active forms we have on our system. So what you can see here is available to the public or available externally. We have 3 forms set up. So we have the customer form advanced, which is the one we've just used, the customer form basic, which is the first one we've used, and then a separate one, a newsletter sign up, which is much simpler. To create a new form, it really is as easy as just creating any other record. All you have to do is click New Online Form, and it will run you through sort of very simple setup options. So it's asking what we want to create. We're just going to go to a default form, and up here we can start filling it out. So you can say newsletter sign up. Perfect. And we can just go down and follow it in from top to bottom. Every NetSuite form, just follow it in top to bottom, everything that's mandatory, and you can't really go wrong. So here's where you select the fields that you want to actually appear on your form. And it's really useful because just like every safe search in the system, everything like that, you can go ahead and just select any field that's actually present on the customer or contact form. So we're just going to go down here, we're going to nominate first name, and we're going to say, right, the first name is mandatory because we always want to put in the first name. And then we're going to say last name, we're going to say that's not mandatory. And the last thing is that we're going to put an email, and that is mandatory. Because the whole point of this is that we want to pull in email addresses for our newsletter. We want to send out a weekly newsletter, and we want to get as many in as possible. So that's good. And what you'll notice is there's a couple of extra functions on here. So if you want help, you can come to help and write help on the field so the user can click through onto that. You can set the width of the form, so this is in pixels. And you can go ahead and just select a few of your options. So you can nominate whether or not you want to update the customer and update the contact. So going across the form, as you see, we can add different messages into the form that will actually display externally. So up here we can say newsletter sign up. Now, so something just cheesy to inspire them to sign up. So the next thing you want to look at is the setup workflow. So once the fields are actually presented to the customer, once the customer has actually submitted it, you want to tell NetSuite how to handle the data, where to put it, how to classify it. And this is fairly comprehensive from NetSuite. You can pretty much go into as much detail as you like. So here, first thing front and center, you'll note is create customers as companies. So if you want them to create as individuals companies, you can select that. I like to create them as companies because it allows it just, but you know, it's entirely up to yourself. You can select the status of a lead, what they go into, or you can drop down and put them in directly as a prospect, whatever you want. You can even put them in as a customer. So let's assuming that if a customer's gone out of his way to actually fill in the form, they're probably a qualified lead, so you can probably select qualified. That way, when the data actually comes into NetSuite, you'll be able to categorize by where they come from and what status they are. You can set the source, so you can see whether it came from online, an email advert, or whatever, or we can say, just like we did before, we're going to say website, because we're going to assume that this form is hosted on the website. You'll notice that in the previous customer forms, you'll see that the record is actually created by website, and that's where this sources it from. You can come down, and if this is associated, this particular form is associated with any particular event, you can pre-fill the event that it's actually associated with. And here, if you're using one world and you have multiple subsidiaries, multiple companies under your one NetSuite, you can choose which customer this or which subsidiary this customer belongs to. So as you can see, we've got quite a lot of subsidiaries on this account. So we're going to go ahead and just say that this is going into our United Kingdom customer pool, which is where our users are at the moment. So we're in UK worldwide sales, which is good. And just as I mentioned before, you can choose to redirect to another form. So you've got two options here. You can either choose to redirect to a different form to get them to fill into more information, or you can redirect to an actual URL. And this URL can pretty much be anything. You can just hot drop it in here to whatever you want. As you notice, if we just have a look at this URL by copy and paste it into a different tab, this should show the online shop with the camera. So this is basically showing as soon as they submitted it, we're going to push them here. As I said, you can change it to whatever you want. Now, a couple of things that we need to touch on is, again, how NetSuite handles the data. So what you'll actually notice is, and you can find with larger databases, data duplication can become a problem if it's not dealt with in a fairly dynamic way. So NetSuite's fairly smart, and if something's entered with the same email address, you can actually choose for it to, rather than just create a new record, doubling up on your email addresses and doubling up on your actual source. You know, more data is not necessarily a good thing, better data is a good thing. You can actually have it, instead of creating a new one, you can have it update your previous contacts or contract record, which is a good thing. And it can also use duplicate detection. So if something's been uploaded that's exactly the same, it'll effectively ignore it or delete the old one. So you still retain a really, really pure data source, which is good. You can also choose to send them a confirmation reply email. So once they've submitted, you can have some acknowledgement to the customer saying, thank you very much for signing up to our newsletter. And this can pretty much be chosen from your whole host of email templates that you already have in NetSuite, which is good. And of course, if you want to actually put some Salesforce automation into it, you can send this lead directly onto one of your sales reps so that they can get in touch as soon as possible, which is a good thing. Okay, so that's pretty much it from the basic form. And what you'll find is obviously you can play around with some settings as well, like color themes. You can add a logo to it. You can say where your button's going to be. But pretty much as soon as you save it down, you can just head to your external section here. Now this is where you're going to get the functionality. You can see there's two forms here. Well, there's a couple of things here. You've got number of requests, so this is number of times a form has physically been loaded but not submitted, or regardless of if it's been submitted, and then you've got number of submits. So the physical amount of times that valid data has been entered into the form and then actually sent to NetSuite. At the moment, as you can see, we've got 2 zeros. So we're just going to come down here. We're going to have a look at the internals and Excel URL. If you're hosting on a website, you pretty much always want to use the publishable form URL. So it's pretty much as simple as just copy and pasting it here and dropping it into your browser. As you can see, it's much like our other form. It's styled exactly the same. It's just got a lot less information, which is arguably a good thing if you're just looking for a sign-up. Obviously, you'll have different purposes for different forms. A newsletter sign-up, you might want to only pull a certain amount of information. If it was to say a query online or interest in services, you'd probably want to be going down and saying, right, first name, last name, contact number, what company do you work for, what vertical the company's in, and going into detail like that. But that's entirely customizable by yourselves. So as I said, this form can pretty easily be hosted by just dropping it into an iframe. We're just going to do this a little bit quickly. So you just copy and paste the URL, which is showing here. And this would be how your web developers would put it on your website. So you just drop it in the source of the iframe. If we reload that, an unexpected error has occurred. Not to worry though. If we refresh it, it should reload. Sometimes it's just a bit of lag when you first install it. And there it is. You can see it right above the original form, which is good. Okay, so let's just hop back onto the PowerPoint again. So as you can see, we've gone through the first part of the story. We've gathered the contacts. Now, the second part is to segment your audience, just as you would in a normal marketing client. So you want to take your contacts and you want to segment them into different groups. The reason being is because, you know, if you know anything about marketing, just mass blanketing emails to everyone doesn't really work anymore. Targeted marketing is much the way forward, so you really want to drill down and create unique groups. So groups can be segmented in a number of different ways. You can either create groups for contacts, customers and vendors, employees or partners, and you can create groups in a couple of different ways. So you can have static and dynamic groups. So the difference between static and dynamic groups. Static groups is just what it says. The group doesn't change. You have one set of users or one list of emails, one list of names that doesn't change unless you physically go in and add something to it. So this would probably be best for a campaign, say a physical campaign that you wanted to track over time. So you wanted to see exactly what sales came out of one particular set of group that didn't change. So you want to have one constant that you can track all the way through. Dynamic groups are a little bit more fun. So dynamic groups work on, you basically set a criteria of who you want to be in that group using NetSuite's SQL or NetSuite's user interface where you can go and actually drop down the parameters of who you want to be in that group, and it will automatically update every time. So say if you created a group for customers in the UK, and as you were adding new customers to your NetSuite, they would be constantly put in and upgraded to that group. So the good thing about that is if you were to schedule a Mailshot a month ago, and since then you've had, say, 2,000 customers added to your mailing list, they would also be included in the group, which is, you know, a really good thing. So just to give you that overview, we're going to hop out and we're going to go back into NetSuite. We're going to have a little talk about groups. So if we just clear some of our screens here. So we can quite easily access the groups by going from leads, relationships, groups. And this may be a little bit different in NetSuite, but if you actually type in groups, you should be able to find it. And what you see here is I've actually got a couple of groups set up. So I've got, and these are both dynamic groups. So if we look here, UK contacts with a first name, we can see all of these UK contacts. And you can see that I'm in there now. And you can see as I've been adding them, John Smith and Michael Round and Mike Smith have actually been added here as well. So regardless that this group was actually made before, it's constantly updating. And the way that works is it just updates based on a saved search. So you've probably encountered saved search in NetSuite before. It really is as easy as that. Say if you use saved search to segment your customers in different ways, you could just bung them into a group like this. So this saved search is basically just filtering down on a criteria by first name and country. So it's just saying that the first name is not empty and the country is in the United Kingdom because we only want to focus on customers within the United Kingdom. Now, sort of the reason why we're only using first name will lead on to a little bit later, so keep an eye out for that. Okay. Let's just talk you through how to set up a group, because obviously that's a set up one. It's all good. We can just show you how to do it really quickly. So it's easy as just clicking new group and it takes you through sort of, it's a very, very simple group setup wizard. So you basically start by stating whether it's a static or a dynamic group. Just to show you the simple one first, you can go into static if you want to. And you could start just by typing your names in here. So if you wanted to add Michael Round, it should be coming up. I'm not quite sure why it's not. But you can basically just add your list of names there. And just like anything in NetSuite, you can use multiple and you can go ahead. Oh, the reason why it wasn't adding was because this is actually a group for a customer, not a contact. So if we go back, sorry, this is, I did actually overlook this. So you first choose your group type. So we're choosing a static, and then you're choosing who you want to be in the group. So either you want contacts, customers, employees, or partners. So instead of going customer, which you can, we can go contacts as well. So we go contacts, we just move on. You can come down and add them one by one. So simply start typing, and it will add it will bring in all their relevant information. If they have a phone number, it will bring their phone, email, company, and their global subscription status. So this can also be done in add multiples. So you can come ahead and go, if we type Smith, we'll probably hit up John Smith up here, and you can just add that down there. So there's a couple of ways to do it. And, you know, that's pretty much it. There's a couple of settings that you could put on here. You can set the owner of a group. So say I'm logged in as Anne Smith at the moment, it'll default to you as a owner. But what you can do is you can have, you can set restrictions on who can actually go in and physically edit the group. So if you had a management hierarchy, you wouldn't want anyone sort of below you to go in and edit it. So it's probably a good idea to just say only yourself can edit it, no one else can. So you know exactly, you have full control over your marketing. It's pretty much as simple as just saving that down. So as you can see, that's just appeared in our group and it's got a physical size there. So next off, we're just going to create a quick dynamic group and show you how easy it is again. So again, we're going to say we only want to include contacts, not customers, purely because we'll probably have a few more contacts in the system. We'll have a few more first names to actually send an email against. So it's pretty much as easy as saying continue. So you just fill in the name. Dynamic group test, and then you have to nominate your save search. So if you've got any contact save searches out there already, just go ahead and select that, and it will automatically bring in all the information. So regardless of what the results are set up for, it will pick up on their email and phone because this will just reorder it. If you don't have one set up, no worries. Just like anything in NetSuite, or like quite a lot of functions in NetSuite, you can actually do it by just clicking this convenient little plus button. What that'll do is that'll give you a pop-out window to just go ahead and create a save search on sort of your group parameters. So here, and this is much like, this is just your classic save search. You can pretty much just go down and do whatever you want, and you can see how many options you have here on how you can segment your group. You literally can do anything that's associated with the customer profile. So for example, that last one was contacts with a first name inside the UK. Let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to say country is any of, and it will dynamically pull in the list of countries. If you start typing United Kingdom, you can select that from a drop down. And we can say perhaps first name, and we can say it contains something, it doesn't contain something. So this would be good if the customer has details on how many employees there are, and say you wanted to only market to employees over a certain number that was in our original drop down, you could do that as well. So you could say we only want to include companies which have over 500 employees. So it's pretty much easy. So it's pretty simple. So what you can see here is we got first name, and we want to say that the first name field is not empty. And we'll just name this accordingly. So first name in the UK, and we'll just save that. And without doing anything, it will bring it right through to the save search, and it will generate your list of names. Now, in the test environment, I'm unfortunately limited to only having 25 names for a marketing campaign. That's why you only see a number of contacts here. But in reality, depending on how big your database is, these searches can go up to 10,000. You know, have them as many as you want within limits. So if we just save that down, you can see that that dynamic group has just been segmented there. You can create as many segments as you want because these aren't necessarily always active. They're only active at the next stage when you actually add them to a marketing campaign. So no matter how many segments you actually want to create, just go ahead and do it. If they're dynamic, they'll update across it. So you can obviously cross over multiple people into multiple groups, and it doesn't harm a thing. It's also good when you actually send marketing campaigns using the individual groups. They'll consider duplicate names, which is, you know, it's fantastic. Okay, so let's just hop back into NetSuite and recap for a minute. So we've segmented our audience. The next step is sending them Mailshot using marketing campaigns. So we'll just skip down there. So we can create a single marketing campaign in NetSuite to track and summarize all events and metrics from a single dashboard. So this is really really good. Instead of having just a single one-off event, what you can actually do is you can have a whole campaign which hosts a variety of events. So say if you were focusing on a particular sale of an item, you could go down and you could create a marketing campaign for that item. So say it was an iPhone. And within that campaign, you can list a whole load of, say, email events and physical events. So we'll show you that in a minute. And these events can be a number of different things. So they can be email, lead nurturing. So say if you wanted to follow the user's story, they could be direct mail, so printed mail, or other such events. And you can add promotional codes, as I said, inventory items from Suite Commerce if you have that installed on your account and you have that active in your account. So it's probably best if we just hop over here now and head back to our dashboard. Now, to get here, it's pretty easy. You just have to go up to campaigns, marketing, and then marketing campaigns. As I said, it's in a logical order. You can pretty much always find it if you just follow the menus. So what we can see up here is we can see a number of campaigns, and obviously this company has run quite a few. Just off the bat, from the aerial view, from the dashboard, you can see a number of sort of bits of key information. So you can see first and foremost their category, you can see the title of the campaign, you can see the manager of the campaign, start date, end date, the total cost, so the cost of actually producing all the elements in the campaign, and the expected revenue, which is really, really good. So just for that, we can go ahead and we'll create a new campaign. And we want to call this webinar Mailshot, which is okay. And you can add a description here if you want. Now you can add your category in here, which can be predefined by your administrator, so you can really report down your marketing campaigns and get some key metrics out of them. We're just going to call it generic email, but you can go in depth. You can say who the marketing manager is for this particular campaign. You can nominate a start and end date. So we're saying that this is actually starting today, but it's not going to end until next month. Now you can set the base cost. So what the base cost is, this is the cost of the campaign regardless of any extra additional events that have gone on top. So if you know before it's even started something at its cost, so say before we've even looked into this, this has cost us £200, you can just drop that in there. However, we can expect a revenue of £5,000 from it. This will always, this will just add to the information at the end. And what you notice is when you've actually dropped the base cost in here, you'll see this total cost field pop up, and it's actually gone in with £200 right off the bat. Now this field's dynamic, and it will automatically add up all of your costs associated with the campaign, so you can report on it in a high level later on. Following down the screen, always fill this in from top to bottom. We can see the vertical, and all these verticals are actually set by the administrator, so we can go ahead and just drop that in there and just say this is relevant to all verticals, we don't really care. You can add a promotional code in from your web store if you like, and you can add your item in there. Again, these forms are fully customizable, so you can add as much or take away as much information as you like. All it will allow you to do is report on it later on. So these forms can be made as specific as your industry as you like them, really. So say if these fields weren't really relevant to your industry, just take them away and add your own. Add what you're comfortable with and what you'll find most useful when actually executing your marketing campaigns. So we're just going to go ahead and, yeah, we're going to say that this audience description is online customers, assuming that it came through an online form. And yeah, say you can fill in as little or as much as possible. So when the top section's done, we're just going to move down and have a look at the bottom section down here. So we've got a few subtabs here. So we've got events, communication, keywords, and custom. So we're just going to have a look at events because this is where the really important stuff is. So you'll notice there are a couple of events, and we mentioned this on the slideshow briefly. So you've got a number of different types of events in NetSuite, or that NetSuite recognizes right off the bat. You've got email, lead nurturing, direct mail, and other events. So emails are your mail shots, so when you want to send out to your collective dynamic groups. Lead nurturing is when you want to follow the customer on a story from when they actually became a lead, and you want to build up and expose them to different types of emails so you can see their path. Direct mail is pretty much exactly how it sounds, who you're going to send physical mail to, and other events could be things such as trade shows or things like that. What we're going to do today is we're just going to create an email example and another events example just so you can get a feel of it a little bit. So to schedule a mail shot, it's pretty easy. You just come down here, you select your target group first of all, and this will actually bring up our groups that we created earlier. So you notice the dynamic group that we created earlier, UK contacts with the first name. This appears right off the bat in the list, and you can select whatever you want. So we select that here, and we just go ahead and fill in the rest of the information. We come across to the template. Now, this is where you can get really creative with it. Now, you can either, in NetSuite, you can either use basic templates, or again, it gives you the option to actually go ahead and code your templates from scratch using HTML. So just like your standard email templates in NetSuite, you just go onto your email template section, select the email template you like, and if you press edit, it'll actually give you a lovely visual editor of it. And just from this visual editor, you can delete stuff, you can add stuff, you can play with it, you can resize things, which is really nice. So it really helps you play with the HTML dynamically on the front end rather than having to get gritty on the back end. So what you can see here, we've got a fairly nice little layout for a marketing campaign. And one thing you'll probably notice here is this weird looking thing. So it's got a $, open parentheses, entity.firstname. Now, this is where we've been a bit clever with our dynamic groups. So we've specifically said we want to see all contacts who definitely have a first name. We want to exclude contacts without a first name. I know it's pretty unlikely, but there's nothing worse than one of your customers receiving an email that's quite obviously meant to have scripted in a name. So without having to do anything, just sending your email, this will automatically bring in the contact's name from their record and put it on the email. So it makes it really nice and customized for them. And as I said, this is a rather pretty HTML template that we've set up, but you can do plain text ones and you can customize this as much as you want. And instead of seeing it on the front end, if you prefer it, you can go in on the back end, you can drop your HTML template just in there. And you know, there are plenty available online, you can go in and get them, or as I said, if you want something bespoke to you, you can just go after a developer and they'll develop one for you. So this one's already been done for us. We're happy with this. We're not going to change it just because we don't really have time to today. We're happy that it's going to bring in the first name and it's saying, right, we want to join. We want you to join our webinar on the 9th of May. Today's the 9th of May, so we probably want to turn that to next month, the 9th of June, and just save that down. And just click yes. And as that wells away, it'll save it down. So if we just head back to our marketing campaign, we've come across our template and we just want to add it in here. So again, this will just crop you up a list of marketing templates that you have on the system. Create a new one off the bat if you don't want to do it for a separate screen, or you could just scroll down and you see your webinar mail shot just here. And what's really nice about it is it pulls in information from it. So the subject line that we've actually nominated on the mail shot or the email template has actually been pulled through to the title. And this scripting works here as well. So you can actually pull through the first name of the contact. And this pulling through information will work for any field on the contact record. So you can pull it through first name, last name, bit of their address, what their vertical is, whatever you want to do. You can be really clever with it. You can even drill down into records, so records that they belong to. You can actually say, right, well, I want to, if they come from this company, I want to say, hi, Michael, I see you work at this company. You're really flexible with it. So again, top to bottom, fill it in left to right. Let's go across to subscription, just say what it is, marketing, and the email, the channel is already filled on email, but you can change that if you like. And here's where it gets quite important. So you have to fill out your cost. If you know this has cost you anything to either acquire the information or send it out for whatever reason, you can just drop it in. Obviously with NetSuite you have a certain amount of mail shots included with your price every month. I think it's about 10,000 a month. However, you can actually, I'll have to double check that actually. However, you can always have the option on purchasing more. So say this cost us, I know it was free to acquire the data and to actually send it out, but let's just assume for sake's sake, we're going to say this cost us £10. We're also going to come across here to the status. Now, just like anything in NetSuite, you can drill down on the particular status of your record. So there's a couple here that you want to actually consider. So failed will automatically go on its own if for whatever reason it failed, so you don't really need to touch that. If you are still working on it, if you're still building the leads, if you're still creating the template, you could just drop it in planning. That way it would be scheduled in there. You'll have all the dates scheduled up. It just won't send. It'll just be nominated in planning. So that way you can really keep a comprehensive list and plan around your marketing. And the last one is execute, obviously. So execute is definitely I'm going to send on this date. And it's really good. You can actually choose the time and date down here as well. So this is sent today at 4 o'clock. Because we've updated this to be in June, you can go ahead and use the date picker and just drop it wherever you like. So we want to say, let's remind them on the 4th of June, which is the first day in that week. Two things you'll notice here, when we actually add this line, you'll notice next to email actually crop up it'll crop up a number. Now this is how much it actually costs to run this campaign, so you can actually keep a running total of cost, which is pretty awesome. And what you'll notice up here as well is in the total cost it'll add to it as well. So it'll keep on racking up this total cost. And these marketing campaigns, you can save them down and you can edit them as much as possible. Even though this is scheduled to execute in June, if we save it down, we can go in, we can add things to it, we can change it, we can do all that good stuff. So if we go into it again, we can go in, make further changes to say, oh, we don't want to schedule it anymore. We want to just put it into planning because something went wrong. You can always do that. And again, searches can be created on the dashboard around this, so you can catch them before they actually go off. It's entirely up to you. NetSuite is pretty much fully customizable, so you have quite a lot of flexibility around that. Okay, so just one other event. We're going to add another event, so you can, again, say who it's aimed at. Maybe we're aiming this one at UK customers, and maybe we're going to say that this is a trade show and the subscription is marketing and channels MISC, and we can say this trade show cost us, how much did it cost us? It cost us about £2,000. And you can see how you can really start building up these this campaign as a whole rather than just an individual event. So you can track the campaign as a whole rather than just little bits and bobs. It aggregates all the data so you can really see a high level feedback of it. So if we just put that in there, because we put £200 instead of 2,000, it's just up the cost. You can get a continuous running cost of it. So a couple of things you'll notice. When we've actually saved that down, we've definitely got this email scheduled in. And this is where your dashboard comes in. Our dashboard's been really nicely designed around the marketing user. So as you can see, it's got marketing reminders up here. It's got some marketing metrics for business intelligence. It's got some common functions that the marketing user would use. And it's got some very nice things like KPI meters, campaigns by profitability. And this can be adapted to exactly what you want. The marketing category, the marketing campaigns and the marketing events are much like any other record in NetSuite, much like contracts, sales orders, purchase orders, things like that. So you can report on them on a very, very specific basis because it gives you all the data up front. You can pretty much have full flexibility in the way you want to display it. So again, just moving down here, you can see other things that the marketing manager may be interested in, some campaign ROI analysis and things like that. One thing you'll notice here though is this is quite cool. We've actually set a reminder that says how many campaigns that we have scheduled for email or campaigns to email. You notice this is on 1, and it's because we haven't refreshed the browser yet. But if we go ahead and refresh that browser, that'll jump up to 2. So the reason why that is, and because everything in NetSuite, everything that's blue you can drill down on into. Once you click that, you can actually see our webinar and when it's scheduled to go off. So you can see it right here. You can see we've got another WD sales promotion scheduled in, but our webinar mail shot, and if you click this, it'll push you through to the record. This is scheduled to go off on the 4th of June. Which is really nice. So because the system all pulls from one single data source, you really do have that 365-degree view on it. You can really sort of access all the information from anywhere, however you like. Okay, cool. What we're going to do is we're just going to pop back to PowerPoint for a second, and yeah, we're just going to carry on to reporting and analytics. So we've got so far in our story, we've submitted your customers into NetSuite or your contacts into NetSuite through the medium of an online web form to avoid your to avoid any sort of mistakes or stuff like that. We segmented your customer lists into the segments you actually want. We've created a marketing campaign and scheduled a marketing mail shot to go off, so that'll send to all the users. And now really the last thing is to actually report on the success of these campaigns. Now, you can, as you saw, there's two sides to reporting. You can have reporting on events from a cost basis, so you can report on expected and actual costs and revenues generated from the event. And these things can be against, cost, revenue, profit, and return on investment. So it can give you all those metrics up ahead. For the marketing campaigns, you can actually report on more specific stuff to the email campaign, so such as open and click rate, so you can get those metrics out. And again, because it's all pulling from one single data source, and I keep on saying this, you can actually drill down into the customer record, see exactly which marketing campaigns they've been exposed to and what their responses have been to the marketing campaigns. So when the actual users looking at the customer, they have this concept of big data around them. They can see a lot more information around them, creating this code halo to really understand them, understand what they like, understand how they respond to certain things. And let's face it, it'll give you sales agents more to actually go ahead and sell on. So there's one really important thing that we have to mention here. So for the email templates, as you saw, we were coding in HTML and we dropped it in there. The only thing you have to consider here, and if you're doing it inside NetSuite, you have to host the images from the actual email in NetSuite. This essentially is what allows us to track open and click rates, open rates, without the user actually sending a read receipt. So on an Outlook email, you usually get a read receipt back. NetSuite does it a little bit cleverly, and it just posts the amount of reads that it's had from a unique user from opening an email, which is good. So we're actually going to go ahead and actually have a look more into this reporting analytics now. So let's just hop back into NetSuite, and you can do this in a couple of different ways. So obviously you can see right here we've got the metrics up here. And one of the useful tabs we've actually got is campaigns by profitability. So we go on here, we actually load a campaign. You'll be able to drill down into the statistics and actually see your return on revenue, in turn your ROI percentage, how much profit you're getting from it, and all those things like that. Which is really nice. It also tells you how many leads are generated, how many unique visitors, purchases. It gives you a lot of information if integrated to the web store, which is really nice. As I said, all your information in one place. For more of the email metrics, NetSuite comes right out of the box with some lovely campaign response forms. So instead of looking at, before the campaign response, we can go into return on investment statistics, is what we're just looking at. Instead of looking at it on an individual record level, you can actually look at it on sort of a larger report, so you can see them all in one place. You can categorize it down to what sort of campaign they were, so whether it was the direct mail, email, whatever, and you can see their cost, revenue, profit, ROI, leads generated, actual purchases generated from it, all in one place. So yeah, let's just head back, and as you can see, this will be really useful when you actually build up your data set, when you actually use this on a day-to-day basis. The more information you can get into here, the more comprehensive and useful these reports will actually be. And these are standard out of the box. As I said, if you use NetSuite Marketing, you will have these reports set up pretty much as standard. So as I said, the second biggest thing is, nowadays at least, is the actual email response, so open and click rates. You can look at this just by going onto your campaign response, and this right here will give you a detailed analysis of it. As you can see at the moment, we haven't been too lucky. That's purely because it's a demo account and we're not really sending to anyone, so no one's really looking at them. That would be rather annoying for them. But yeah, as I said, you can just go into here and you'll see a breakdown by marketing type, what the event was, pretty much how you want to see it. And these reports, again, are fully customizable. So if there's something in here you don't like, if we can think of a logical way to include it, we can always include it in these reports by customizing the report itself, which is awesome. Okay, and yeah, just a few other things. These reports can actually be pushed onto the dashboard really, really nicely. So just like here, you see that we've got a nice little pie chart of the campaign ROI. This actually breaks it down into different campaigns and campaign categories. If you actually have a look at this in a couple of different ways, NetSuite's really good because pretty much everything you can click on, or everything that's a hyperlink, will actually drill down into something deeper, so you can actually get more information from it. Just for example, you can actually have a look at the campaign ROI from that specific campaign that we actually selected, which is really, really, really nice. Okay, so as I said, we've just gone through setting up a campaign, actually reporting on the analytics as a result of it. The last bit is just the SMTP server settings. And sorry, this is where I had to check earlier. I did mention about how many you can send. So with standard NetSuite, you're limited out of the box with your NetSuite ERP account. You can send 10,000 emails per event and up to 100,000 emails per month. Now this is purely for the reason that NetSuite doesn't particularly want to get blacklisted from blanketed emails out, which is understandable. The more emails you can go out, so the less credible they seem if you appear to be spamming, or if multiple users appear to be spamming with it. However, this can be solved in two ways. So the amount of emails you can actually send a month can be upgraded by NetSuite. You can just get into contact with them, request more, and they'll charge you a little bit more money for it. Or you can actually change your SMTP server settings from the NetSuite mail server to your own mail server. So your mail server will be taking all the load on that, which is really good. Okay, so that pretty much concludes today's webinar. I hope you've enjoyed it. And if you've got any questions, please feel free to send them to sales@nolanbusinesssolutions.com. As I'm sure you can see, this is a really, really effective way to actually get leads into or get contacts into your NetSuite database, to segment them, to actually have a high-level overview of them, to create your marketing campaigns and track individual events, and then to report on your actual activities. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope it's been instructional, and yeah, thank you very much for listening.